Welcome to How to Absolutely Always Open Your Presentation with Impact. In case we had not the pleasure of meeting personally, or at least in one of these webinars, I'm Patricia Fripp, your host. And of course, we have a very important person who will tell you how you can engage with us, answer polls and send questions. He is the Director of Client Experience for Frip Virtual Training. Paul, take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. And we would like to welcome everyone from all over the world. We have a very high registration rate. So we have Vancouver, Mexico, Barbados, Cape Cod, just everywhere. So welcome, everyone.
Wow.
And in order to interact with us and each other during the call, obviously, because you've already started posting in the chat, you see where the chat box is. This is also where you're going to put your short, specific questions throughout the call that we'll answer live. In addition to the chat window, there's also a polling section, and we're going to get started with a quick poll. Just, are you a professional speaker, corporate speaker, or sales professional? And then answer that, click your answer, then click vote. And while you are doing that, we're going to take a look at the first chapter of options of openings within Frip VT. So we're going to share that with you.
Yes, so we are going to start with a virtual Frip, setting the tone for the rest of our action-packed session. And
when you have choices, options of openings, the techniques. As you soon will come to discover, our subtitle is How to Open Your Presentation with Impact. At the beginning of a speech, presentation, seminar, client meeting, report to senior management, sales presentation, or any manner of presentation you deliver, you need to arouse interest in the subject. After all, we stand in the rain to see a movie. Would you stand in the rain to listen to your presentation?
Well, perhaps people wouldn't want to stand in the rain. However, the whole idea that we're trying to get across is you want to immediately grab the audience's attention. If you are a regular for my trainings or webinars, you know I often use movie analogies. And one of my very good friends, Michael Haig, who is a screenwriting teacher and story consultant for Will Smith's company, he always talks about get into the scene late. So many of our stories and openings, we do too much setup before we get to the meat. And Paul, we have the statistics. Would you like to share with everyone who's involved with us, at least live?
Absolutely. We have 45% professional speaker, 33% sales professional, and 22% corporate speaker.
Good, because obviously some of the examples we give will be specifically related to who is live on this call. And for this session, we're going to bring up a PowerPoint and go over some of the techniques and specific lines. As a giveaway, we will have some great handouts on opening lines, the techniques, and opening lines, the actual words that you use. In general, the first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds of any presentation has the most impact. You have to break distraction. You have to get people's attention. And we all know that today's audiences are stimulation junkies with short attention spans. And in the old days, if people were looking at a mobile device, you would think they weren't paying attention. Very often now, what they are doing is, in fact, they are tweeting out some of your quotes. So it's more difficult to engage. But it would be great if we could look at the audience and see them all looking back with enthusiasm. Many of the situations that we speak in as a trainer, people are sent. It's very different than if you're tuning into a webinar or you're coming to an event that a speaker organized. Some of the audiences don't have a choice. When we're speaking at conventions or if you're a corporate speaker speaking for a board of directors, the audience would be there whether it was you speaking or not. So, Paul, do we have the PowerPoint?
Absolutely. Bringing that up right now.
And we'll just start with a few techniques that are tried and true techniques that you can use in almost any situation. So, for example, one of the first techniques is start with a question. And one of the questions that people often use is, for example, something like, have you ever? And I would always recommend, if that is a phrase you use, it is assuming that the person had a challenge and your advice is going to improve their condition. I would rather you said, how often have you? So, for example, how often have you walked into a room and not known what to say? How often have you walked in front of your senior management and frozen? Now they really know the advice. An interesting statistic or little known fact. This is a great way to build credibility with an audience that doesn't necessarily know you, or even if it is part of your world, it would be nice to start with a statistic or a fact that they don't know. And when you do that, I recommend you always put an emotion to it. So, for example, would it shock you to know? In fact, in a presentation someone is delivering today, one of my corporate clients, she's getting an award for her contribution to this charitable organization that helps women and young girls. And she introduced a statistic that San Francisco, where I am living, as you can see by my backdrop, is the third highest area for sex trafficking for young women. Well, that was horrifying to me. So I said, with a statistic like that, would it horrify you to know? It could be, could it disgust you to know? It could also be, in a different circumstance, would it surprise you to know? Would it thrill you to know? Then a story or example. And this is when Michael Haig's advice really comes into play, where you get into the scene late. So it could be simple as, Mary had a challenge. Or it could be, I'll never forget the first time or. So we'll talk more about getting into your stories. And later in the session, and now in the chat box, if you have a favorite opening that you like to use, feel free to send it in. We can analyze it. So after a story or example, it could be a statement. Now, a statement is your opinion. One I frequently use is, it never ceases to amaze me that intelligent, well-educated and ambitious individuals frequently overlook developing the number one skill that is absolutely guaranteed to position them ahead of the crowd. Namely, developing the ability to stand up and speak eloquently with confidence, or at very least stagger to their feet and say anything at all. So that is a statement of fact. Now, it could be transport the audience. Now, of course, if you were saying, come back with me to 2002, or another word which we will give you in the opening of a speech, will reinforce it, which is imagine. Now, if ever you're going to transport the audience with imagine, you want to take them somewhere they would want to go. Now, to transport the audience, you could also say, if you had been in Wimborne, Dorset when I was growing up in the 50s. Okay, so that's transporting the audience. And now let's look at the actual opening lines. And we found in part of our training, this is some of the most popular parts, because intelligent people, once they get going talking about what they know, they're fine. Most of my clients need me to help them with their opening. So we'll start with internal. This would be a meeting, especially an internal meeting. You can't say the purpose of this meeting is to. Now, that's getting to the point. I've helped many of my clients, they report to their bottom line manager. They've got 10 minutes. So it would be, good morning, Miss Fripp. Sit down. The purpose of this meeting is to update you with. Now, this could also be with a staff meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to. Now, this can be used many places in a sales presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss how Frip virtual training could be your best option to train your team in presentations and sales presentations. So it could simply be, so often I hear people want to start their presentation with, I want to talk about. No. How about, thank you for the opportunity to discuss my passion. As you know by my introduction, this is certainly with a company meeting, or even if you have some online training, part of your world, if you're a speaker and a trainer, you will remember at our last meeting, this was the goal, or we discussed this. In other words, we're putting this presentation in context with the last one, or this meeting in context to the last one. So you remembered our last meeting. The next one is, thank you for your support with. This might be used in an example where perhaps you're speaking to your management team. Thank you for your support with our fundraising program with, or thank you for support with our project to donate our software to the school system. It's a good, clean, bottom line starting point. And of course, if you're reporting to senior management, you know even better than I do, it's bottom line your message. So we hope this will be helpful. Congratulations. Now with the sales presentation, if you're familiar with the Frip sales presentation training in Frip virtual training, or just any of my sessions you might have been in, I always believe that if you sound the same as everybody else, you have no advantage. And many sales presentations start out with, hi, my name is Patricia Fripp. I'm with the Frip training company. We've been in business for 30 years, and this is who we serve, and this is our unique methodology, and we'd love to do business with you. Forget it. The number one principle of connecting with any audience is, remember, they are more interested in themselves than they are in you. Find a way to talk about them first. So in a sales presentation, it could be, congratulations, what are they proud of? Mention it, be specific, and then thank you for the opportunity. So a lot of these lines you can use together. We have an amazing opportunity. Now, this is great in a January sales meeting, in a staff meeting, at a launch of a new product. It's also good for an internal team. We have an amazing opportunity. Our senior management is giving us a challenge too. Now, certainly, if you could use that, if this was part of a sales presentation, is you have an amazing opportunity. So see if you can use those. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free. For an internal meeting, again, if you're getting your team excited, there will never be a more perfect time too. Now, might also suggest that you have an amazing opportunity to improve your presentation skills, and there's never more perfect time to start than now. Now, so any questions or comments? I'll just click on the chat. Paul, are there any, specific questions that are for me rather than for you?
Well, Jean wanted to share her opening line.
Okay.
How often have you been listening to a speaker telling you to change your limiting beliefs and felt very frustrated because they don't tell you how?
Good. Now that is good. So I'm going to look at this here. How often have you heard? So using the Jerry Seinfeld principle that I will spend an hour taking an 8-word sentence and edit it down to 5. In his case, it will be funnier. In our case, it'll be more memorable. And when you limit the words that you use, the ones that are left are more powerful. So I would take been listening, I would make it into 1. How often have you, I would say, how often have you heard a speaker? And I would not talk about limiting beliefs. I would just, to give you, or I would probably make it a more universal, a speaker tell you how you can change, and leaving frustrated because they didn't tell you how. Then you can say, just last month, I was listening to a speaker discussing limited beliefs. So I would chunk it down and not give quite as much in the opening line. Is there another, Paul?
Yes, Roger, how do you feel about starting out with dialogue with the audience?
It depends on the circumstance, Roger. So for example, if you were at an event, many of you know, or many of our community know, I was just at a conference called Lady and the Champs, and this is mostly for speakers, and they know us, they're part of our community. So in that case, we already have a relationship. So I have seen speakers who came out when give a specific example. A friend of mine is a brilliant speaker on negotiations. This was a session at 4:00. So people had broken the speed limits to get there on time. They did not know her. They were a little exhausted, and rather than come out, which is an approach if you don't know people, grab them and give something of value to them, then when you engage them, they are more likely to do it. So if you own the audience, fine. If you have no relationship, prove that you're worth listening to first. Any others, Paul?
Yes, we have Bob. I'm impressed with how far you've come. Let's see if you can go further.
Well, it would depend on the context. So let's just imagine it's part of a training program that you're delivering. So it would say, this is the third session. This is the third of an 8-session series on how you can learn to better. You have really impressed me. So I would I would make it about them. And again, you could add the congratulations with that. Congratulations. You might say, congratulations. Tracy told me this is going to be the best audience that you ever trained on negotiation skills. She was right. You have exceeded my expectations. So hopefully you can play with that. That might make a difference. All right, Paul, let's go. And we can certainly come back to more questions and comments. Let's go to the next, which is opening options, and this is the words if you're giving a speech. Now, again, you can adapt this to corporate presentations and sales presentations. So imagine now you're taking to the different place. Now, in a motivational situation, you might, and this is what I suggest, and it's always been well accepted when I've suggested other speakers or my corporate clients or my sales teams do it, it's worked with me. So imagine, what is today's date, Paul?
Today is the 22nd of March, Wednesday.
Good. It is the 22nd of March, 2017. So how you would start your speech would be, imagine it is March the 22nd, 2018. And what you do, you walk over to the stage. So as you're looking at me, and remember, this is a little like an aerobics teacher. This is the past, as it were, or this is now, and the future would be that way. So on stage, as the audience is looking at you, you would walk. What if I was on stage, I would be walking to my left. So hopefully that makes sense to you watching, because you're walking into the future. And then you paint a picture of, you're getting ready to go to the national sales meeting, assuming you're speaking at this year's national sales meeting. And you can't help but reflect on, this has been the best year of your career. You've made more sales, had more time off. Your vacations are more exotic. You're having more time at the gym, and your relationships have improved. And you wonder, I wonder what made the difference. And then you remember. And then you walk back to what is the center of the stage where you started. That a keynote speaker at our sales meeting, or a sales trainer the company brought in, said, congratulations, this is going to be your best year ever. And so what you're doing, and then at the end of your presentation, you can say, you can walk back to that part of the stage and say, will that be a reality? It all depends. If you take action on what the speaker in 2007 said, which is you in that day, and you're reminding them what you said. So that is a different technique. Now, this is an example that we mentioned earlier of how you put emotion with a statistic or something of interest. So would it interest or surprise or amaze you to know? Now, you understand you have to put the right emotion with it. And then if I were to ask you, now you can ask a question. I like rhetorical questions. So if I were to ask you, is 2017 the year you quadruple the quality of your presentation skills? Perhaps you'd say yes. Perhaps you'd say no. Most likely you would say, Patricia, I'd love it to be, can you tell me how? Well, great news. You are at the right place at the right time. And in the next 45 minutes, 2 hours, or whatever your time is, you are going to learn exactly how to do that by bullet, introduce your outline. And we would challenge you and say, if this is the year that you are committed to improve the quality of your presentation skills, join Frip virtual training and have Patricia Fripp as your speech coach 24/7 in an easy, convenient, fun, and cost-effective way. All right, Paul, let's go back to any specific questions or opening lines.
Let's take a look now from Sehin. I'm going to be speaking at a big nonprofit annual fundraising event. Any helpful tips to excite the audience to give or donate?
Yes. In fact, Paul, maybe you want to bring it back to me. Let me handle this, and then we'll come back to the PowerPoint, because yes, there are many circumstances. I actually do help people to speak at events like this. Statistics can shock you. However, stories emotionally connect and are more likely to get you to open your wallet. So what I would suggest you do is start with a story about somebody that the organization has helped. Then you might tell a story about how the organization began. It was one person with an idea, and now it's grown to this. And then you might give a few statistics about, how much you've helped. how much you've grown. You would know what are the most important statistics for this organization. And then you might say, we are frequently asked this, answer the questions that people are most curious about. And then you might say, at this point, you're probably thinking, how can I help? You can help us 3 ways: with your time, your money, or your influence. And then, of course, if you would like a combination of all. So in other words, there are many people who will support you who really don't have much money, but they can volunteer. They can sell raffle tickets. They can check people in at events. There are other people who have more money than time that are willing to donate. Then there are others who really will champion the cause and use their influence, whether it's their LinkedIn, their Facebook friends, whether it's having some sort of fundraising at their company. And then at the end, it's whatever you choose to do. Now you say, now you introduce the person you helped at the beginning, and also perhaps the person who founded the organization that you mentioned. Bring them back in the end and say, Paul, who is the person you helped, and Janine, who founded the organization, say thank you. We've accomplished a lot, but we still have plenty to do. And together, we can increase the results for whoever it is in our community. So I don't know if that helps. And Paul, any other questions or comments?
Yes, we have from Sylvia. When I travel to India, I open my presentation with, I will take you on a virtual trip to China, Australia, Mexico, and the US to meet other scientists using our products to advance the research.
Okay, that's good. That is good. I love the let's go around the world. That is very, very good. But rather than I will, invite them. So you're invited on a trip, or come with me as we circle the globe to this. So, of course, there are many times you're going to start with I. However, I would always encourage you to look to see if there's a way that you could include them rather than just be you. Paul?
All right, then we have from Lenora Weaver. How do you feel about opening a presentation with a gamification exercise to get the audience's opinion on a subject?
So in other words, I believe that is something that they get involved in. I would make a couple of comments first just to build rapport. Then if it's a technology group that they're actually doing something, I'm sure knowing who that is, who is very experienced and has been Fripnotized in the past and will be Fripnotized in a couple of weeks with her group, that it would work. The tried and true is always give something of value, information, humor, congratulations, that they have some sort of feeling. It's the law of reciprocation. You have given something to me. I will now do what you're asking me to do.
All right. And then I hope I don't mess this up too badly. Newt Tonsberg, what about opening with, how fantastic is it to be here talking to you?
I would personally not use that. Now, the intention is good, but there's a better way of saying this. Because that is all about how you feel about the situation. I would go back to the thank you for the opportunity to discuss. I would go to thank you for your invitation. Mary's promised. You are interested in, but somehow include them. That's not the most articulate way of answering your question, but talk about the same feeling, but about them. And if you said, really, 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 I want you to be cut and dried and black and white, I would say, give me a story first. A story that's going to resonate with them. And then perhaps say, congratulations on something they did. And then say, this is a thrilling experience to have the opportunity to share my ideas with you. All right.
All right. Then we have Fahim. I normally start my talks by saying, hopefully I won't be wasting your time for the next 30 minutes.
No, please don't. Please don't. Because it's rather like you don't want to introduce an idea you don't want in their mind. And this is some coaching I got earlier in my career. I was saying, no, but before we go to your coffee break, and one of my friends who's a very good trainer said, Patricia, as soon as you say coffee break, they're thinking about it. So, and this is the advice I give to other people. It's me. I'm very aware I'm their last item before lunch. No, they've gone to lunch. So I'd rather you didn't do that.
All right. Now we have you ever attended a bad presentation? Was it your presentation?
Okay. Well, what I would say is, you wouldn't have attended you have attended a presentation. You think that's more of an audience. And I would say, how often have you listened to a bad presentation? Be honest. Has it ever been a review of your own? So try and see if that works.
All right. So from Simon, Patricia, in talking about injecting passion into the workplace, I sometimes open with, who here has ever enjoyed a night of passion? Grabs their attention and lets me talk about the absence of passion and disengagement in the workplace during the day.
All right. Well, give me the first couple of words.
Who here has...
Who here? Okay. Who here? Yeah. Who here? All right. Because we don't want to speak to an audience. We want to speak to one individual and everyone hears. Now, who here is one way of talking to one person. I would perhaps say, how often have you, or have you ever? I would try and be a bit more, I'm talking just to you in the opening. And it's certainly now it's a little titillating when you say passion, so that it's going to get their attention. So that is very, very good. And I would extend the pause, and they will probably laugh, and then bring them back and focus on specifically what you mean in this context.
All right, then from Tanya, I talk to organizations about bridging millennials in the workplace. Should I open with a story?
If it's a good story that transitions well into your central theme, absolutely.
All right, this is from Ted. He learned this opening from Craig Valentine. The last time I was in prison, visiting, I must clarify that.
Okay, yes. I know, well, yes. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that. And of course, we all know there's a line I use. I taught the champs everything they know. I haven't taught them everything I know. And of course, Craig has made me very famous around the world, talking about when he hired me long before I had a relationship with the champs. And he gave me his best opening line that always worked. And I said, never use that again. So that is interesting. Having heard Craig deliver it multiple times, and of course he is an absolutely incredible speaker, what I would do is I would pause longer. I would pause longer, and Craig likes to smile and laugh at his own jokes. I personally think the impact would be greater keeping more of a straight face. And then tie it back to we're all prisoners of our limiting beliefs, or we're all a prisoner in a way of thinking. Or so I would say, if you introduce an idea at the beginning, bring it back multiple ways.
All right. And from Lobna, what is the best start for a year beginning meeting internal where I kick off the meeting and hand it over to the first presenter?
Good. So it sounds as if you are the moderator or the kicker off, and a moderator or the opening has a very important role, even if you only speak for 1 or 2 minutes. And it very simply, we are here to celebrate 2017's successes. Preview our ambitious goals for this year and celebrate our champions all. Now, that is a transition into what's happening in the day. I would come up with something before that, and it could be, congratulations. You are the best whatever in our industry. Now you got to prove it. That's obvious because of give me results, and then go into we're here to celebrate, etc. Now, what you could do as an opening, and this is what I often coach my corporate leaders who have to give a January sales meeting every year, and very often mid-year, or perhaps every quarter, is come up with what is the most memorable moment for you. So if you think, reflecting on 2017, one of the most vivid memories was when we were getting ready for this and you did that and this was the result. Now with this, Paul, of course, we try and deliver 40-minute webinars because many research says shorter are better, but we have engaged so much. So we're going to hold now, Paul, and go back to the PowerPoint. And remember, you will have a handout sent to you at the end with 2 pages of techniques, 2 pages of opening lines. So I can't quite remember what the last one. I wish you could have, if I were to ask you, good. I wish you could have been there. Now this is a taking you to a different time and place. Now I wish you could have been there is, of course, you're going to take somewhere that they want to go, because this is obviously the assumption it's positive. Now I have what you might then do is take them back to a time that wasn't true and how you got there. So it's a matter of this is where I am, or at a point in time, this is where I was, this is how I got here. Now, it was the most exhilarating moment of my life. And very often I have the privilege of helping somewhat celebrities develop speeches. And if your speech is about your life, then what you're going to do is, or at least I encourage you, you write it like a screenplay, as if this were a movie. And so we're going to have the opening scene, which in a movie is often called the flavor scene. And then it's perhaps your life, perhaps the beginning of your life, the middle, the end, or when you were young, when you're building your career, and now. And I had the privilege of working with an amazing person who was, I'm trying not to use the actual name, but he had won this special international event 3 times. And I am not into sports, but this was a celebrity and, very big deal. And he had a very highly paid presentation for a major Fortune 100 company, and he didn't have a speech, and he hadn't been speaking for a while. So we had to lock ourselves in a room, and he could not leave till we had his speech. And I spoke to him a few days before and said, your opening line is, it was the most exhilarating moment of my life. When was that? Was it the first time you won this event? He said, no, it was the second time. Now I'm fascinated. And it turned out it was, rather than being a champion, it was how to be a champion, how to lose it all, how to fight your way back. That was much more interesting. But that is a great opening line. And if it's going to be a story of your life, that is a good one. Works every time. Now, how often of you is always, of course, rather than have you ever. You've given examples of this. Let's see, is there one more, Paul? Mary had a problem. Now, I put this in and I mentioned this is how do you get to the scene? And now, Paul, if you can come back to me. And how do you get into the scene? Because stories, which are a great way to open, of course, are about people who have to have a backstory. So if I said Mary had a problem, well, what's the problem? But you also need to know who Mary is. Was Mary a 32-year-old mother of two who had just got the bad news? Oh, what bad news? You see, you're engaging the audience, but you're getting into the scene late, as Michael Haig tells us to do. And your story or your question or your opening, whatever choice you make, has to transition into the body of your speech, the premise of your speech. Because the most difficult one sentence of any presentation is the premise, the central theme, the dominant thought, or the big idea, which gives us a perfect time, Paul, to our very next meeting that Paul will put in the chat version is on what day? April the 11th, is it?
Yes, April the 11th at noon Pacific time.
And it is called?
It is called How to Organize a Presentation Easily, Quickly, and Effectively.
And so that will be the next one. Now, meanwhile, before we get back to some Q&A or your opening lines, Paul, can we go back to the PowerPoint, because we have a great attendance and we really appreciate your support and your interest. And if you are serious about improving your presentation skills, or if you'd like Patricia Fripp's advice 24/7. Okay, next slide, and I'll come back to that one. If you have not, as of yet, signed up for Frip VT, we want you to take a trial. You will find in your week's trial at Frip Virtual Training, Frip VT, you can have a free chapter on openings, stories, and sales. And then we are giving you, if you do this in the next week, it's like, this is a sale. The next week, if you would like to join, use the coupon code Frip to save 20%. So for an individual person, your first month, we would charge you $237 and then only $23 a month and a few cents every month. To put this into context, you could have a year's of Frip available 24/7 on all aspects of presentations and sales presentations for less than 1 hour of coaching. Of course, for teams or companies, then the investment goes down even more. So, Paul, let's, but I saw the image, so I can go straight to it. Let's just bring up Frip Virtual Training one more time, just to show the quality of what's there. And then I will tell the story of that went with the Genentech slide, answer a few more questions, and then we will wave goodbye and hopefully see you on the 11th of April, unless, of course, we see your registration for Frip VT. So, of course, in the training center, that is when all the content is for all the courses, which are designed in digestible chunks, because we know even ambitious professionals who are totally serious about learning presentation skills, we're all busy. So this is put together in digestible chunks. So seeing this subject is of we had a high percentage though from sales. So Paul, why don't we just look at a minute of the first chapter for sales presentations? Because the opening of a sales presentation gives you a competitive edge over your competition.
Life is a series of sales situations. Every day you sell yourself, your ideas, your value, your point of view, your product, or your service. Every sales conversation and presentation is a missed or captured opportunity. If you sound the same as everybody else, you have no advantage. This course is looking at what you are learning about effective presentations, specifically as it relates to the sales process. When you learn how to use the right language in a more effective way, you enjoy a competitive edge in both your sales conversations and presentations. You will have a seemingly unfair advantage if your competition does not know what you are about to learn.
So that's the teaser. What you're about to learn, an unfair advantage. Now, another opening line that I've used is very often with an audience is there's only one thing I wanted in business, an unfair advantage. So that is, again, a great opening line. Now, what we had put in the PowerPoint was, of course, Genentech, and being a is being a. So you'll see it was being a is like. And you might want to write that down. Being a ... is like. And in this case, it was my next door neighbor who was a senior scientist at Genentech. And I invited him to speak to my women's professional organization on the work he was doing developing an AIDS vaccine. And I said, Mike, most of us don't spend time with scientists. And even if we do, we have no idea what they're talking about. Tell the audience as you're opening, what is it like to be a scientist? And he came up with this himself. Being a scientist is like doing a jigsaw puzzle in a snowstorm at night when you don't have all the pieces and you don't have the picture you're trying to create. Then at the end of his presentation, I had him say, at the beginning of my presentation, you heard the frustration of being a scientist. So many people ask, why would you do it? Last story. Now, I won't tell you the last story, but that was a way he brought it back later. So let us do a quick review. You need to grab the audience with a great opening. Whatever choice you choose, or you come up with, or you take from the handouts we're going to send you, or what you have heard, one, whenever possible, make it about them. Use shorter sentences and don't necessarily do all the build up that we often do. Take us to the scene. You have plenty of options. And we certainly hope that you will sign up for your free trial of Frip VT and get the first chapter on openings. And remember, if you want to sign up and join, use Frip. For the next week, we're going to give you the special client discount. Okay, Paul, now let's see if there's some other questions or opening lines.
Yes, let's go back here. We have, excuse me, what about a juxtaposition? Would it be of interest to know that the unemployment rate amongst people with disabilities is 62%? The annual income of someone with a disability is $15,000, but I'm not here to speak with you about problems of disabilities, but the opportunities behind having a disability.
Okay, good. Well, I would what I would do is I would take the but out. George Walther, great speaker, used to teach power speaking. And he always said, take the butt out of your mouth. So I would try and take the butt out and give me the first couple of words.
I'm not here to speak with you about.
Okay.
Oh, you after the but.
No, before. I would say, I'm not here. So I would say, we're not here to discuss. Just try it and see if that works. Another?
In your experience, what is the most important thing I have to avoid in a conference? I'm assuming with the opening.
Well, and this is a preview of perhaps next week's session. I was interviewed by a celebrity. And at the end of a 30-minute conversation, he said, Patricia, come on, that was good, but give me the one secret of delivering a good presentation. And I said, there is no one secret. However, if there were, it would be that your subject is of interest to your audience. And you might say, well, I don't know if they're interested in my subject. Well, that is as a speaker's job to find the connection. And then, so find the connection with the audience, and that'll give you more confidence and serve them. Now, that is one of many, many suggestions, but when it comes to your speech, that. Paul?
All right, we have Christina opening for a talk on bridging communication styles when doing business across cultures. And the opening is, do you know that 2/3 of international collaboration projects, including...
Let's stop there. Would it surprise you? Not do you know? I would say, would it surprise you to know, or you could assume they know it? As you probably know. So then it's giving them, rather, do you know, they might, if you don't know the audience, they might feel, oh, no, I don't know. But you can say, as you probably know, if that's of help.
All right. And then someone said they love Frip VT. Their boss okays it every year, and she reviews and practices. Thank you, Pamela. And then D asks, is it $23 a month for the second year too? And the answer
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you. We love these questions. These questions we will continue to answer offline as well as online. But yes. So once the first month, and we've had, I think, in our history, 2 people who came in for 1 month and then closed it. But in general, because the idea is to have it available, to have ongoing digestible chunks. Because it's not only listening to it, it's a matter of learning it. Now, it's put together where there's testing, tracking, and monitoring put in. So you do have to think about it and learn it. It's not designed to trick you, but to learn. And then the real secret is you'll know, I know, and I'm giving you the very best of what it's taken more than 30 years to learn, but then put it into your own presentations. And obviously, I answer the emails of Frip VT users a lot faster than anybody else looking for advice. And we do have user meetings, and we've added a lot more content than just the 15 chapters in Frip VT. We do so many of these webinars that we take the best ones and we chunk them into 20-minute chunks and put them in the system as well. Paul?
All right. D also said, George Walter, take the butt out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Then we have, you're so inspiring. Thank you for being there. Why is it that relationships are so painful, especially within your own family? What is going on?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Now that is a great, yes.
And then Karen says, it sounds like it'll be great for me. I was late today, so didn't hear the beginning. This may be exactly what I need. And Karen, you will get a link to the replay so you can watch it from the beginning to end to catch anything you missed. And that brings us to the end of the comments and questions.
Well, perfect timing then. Thank you very much for your interest. Thank you for signing up for our event. We hope you will be in the April the 11th. Once you do sign up for one event, we do invite you to others, but you don't have to wait. It will be advertised on my website under frip.com events, where we add the content on webinars or any situation that's open to the public. Obviously, most of my work is for my corporate clients, but anything that's open, if you're anywhere near Pittsburgh, I'm speaking for the Pittsburgh National Speakers Association. I think that's the 8th of April, whatever a Saturday is. If you're in Santa Barbara, the last Saturday of the month, I'm speaking at a business conference there. Otherwise, we'll see you online, or please reach out if you want a conversation about Frip VT. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for your attendance. And remember, the first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds of any presentation has the most impact. Bye.